Moving to Western Europe, I want to look at Newgrange, and we're actually looking at Ireland, which isn't even on our map entirely because Ireland is generally historically kind of irrelevant in a lot of ways. Even the Romans won't go to Ireland for several reasons, but Newgrange is an important site. It is a grave, is a burial mound, and is the oldest burial monument that we have in the British Isles. It is a megalithic tomb. So in other words, we have a large stone that forms a prehistoric monument or part of one. In the case of Newgrange, what we're looking at is really the whole thing is stone, but we have that monolithic entry stone, which you see here, and just sort of the construction of it hits that megalithic form. And this is what's known as a passage grave. A passage, or the passage and chamber of Newgrange, are there to not only get you to the bodies, to the grave itself, to the tomb, but they are illuminated by the winter solstice, the sunrise specifically. So what you see is on the winter solstice, a shaft of light will pass through this roof box over the entrance, which we'll see in a minute, and penetrates the passage to light up the inner chamber. This dramatic event lasts for about 17 minutes at dawn on the winter solstice and a couple of mornings before and after for much shorter periods. What incredible technology would the ancient people of Ireland had to have to do this? Well, rocks and a stick. If I want to find out when the winter solstice is, all I have to do is plant a stick in the ground and at the same time every day mark where the end of the shadow is, roughly noon. Mark where that shadow is. You'll get a figure 8 pattern. When that shadow is the furthest right or left, that is the winter and summer solstice. In the middle where it crosses is going to be the autumnal or spring equinox. And therefore, I know then which direction that shadow has to go. And so if I put that stick in the ground, another stick, or the same stick, and I simply put rocks in a line following that shadow on sunrise on what I now know is the winter solstice, I can now create this incredible tomb. We also have an entrance stone, and by the way, the doorway is behind it, and then this is that entrance box where the light passes in and passes down the chamber. The entrance stone is enigmatic. We don't know exactly what the spirals mean. There are several beliefs that this could relate to the afterlife. We know that this is a tomb, but it is one of those forms that we're not entirely sure of. It may be symbolic of the purpose of the tomb or symbolic of the occupant. And the construction inside of it is actually a corbel vault. There's a dome in there. We'll get to that in a second. But corbel vault is simply rows of masonry placed so that each row projects a little bit beyond the one below it until they meet in the middle. You can do this with blocks of wood, Legos, etc. And what you get inside is a dome, a corbel vaulted dome, where they simply stack these stones one slightly inside of the next to create this large dome structure. Now, Newgrange has not always looked like this. It was restored in the 19th century. So there are always questions when it comes to restoration. But at the end of the day, it is rebuilt in a way that is probably close to what it would have looked like and how it would have functioned at the time. But my larger question is, why build it? I mean, think about it. The amount of resources here is incredible. Just to create a mound of that size, leaving aside building the passageway and everything else out of stone, but to build the mound around it would have required thousands of people carrying baskets full of soil to create that mound. It would have taken a couple of years, if not more. The amount of resources is remarkable, which leads us to believe that this must be a ruler of some form, because who else would have those kind of resources available to them to create something like this?